Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Lekan on Onabanjo. The headlines at this hour. 74 victims discharged as Plateau State Governor Mutfwang orders closure of collapsed school. Local government election holds in 5,863 polling units in Delta State. Rwandan President Kagame holds final rally in Kigali ahead of elections. Details to come your way shortly. We begin by telling you, looking at the following situation that transpired in Plateau State, where Commissioner for Information Musa Ashoms announced on Saturday that Governor Caleb Mutfwang has ordered the closure of Saints Academy in Jos following its collapse, which killed over 22 people. The governor visited the collapse site in Busabuji and hospitals treating the injured. He also ordered the arrest of artisanal miners operating near residential areas. Governor Mutfwang expressed condolences to the families of the deceased and pledged state support for the injured students' medical costs. The government has declared a 3-day mourning period from July 13 to 15, 2024, with flags at half-mast to honor the victims. In a related development, 4 people have been rescued from a building that collapsed in Kubwa, a residential district of the Bari Area Council in Nigeria's federal capital, Abuja. According to eyewitnesses, the building collapsed in the early hours of this morning. Escaped residents say they heard sounds and rumblings and ran out before the actual collapse. Now, joining us on the news is our correspondent, Joshua Marai, who is at the scene and will be telling us more. Joshua, good afternoon to you. Now, what can you tell us about the building collapse and the latest updates that we should know? All right, we'll try and see as much as possible to bring Joshua to bring us up to speed as regards the collapsed structure in Abuja. Now, the election of council chairman and councillors is holding today in the 5,863 polling units in Delta State. Meanwhile, the State Commissioner of Police, Abanumonda Ulufemi, earlier led the Deputy Commissioner of Police Operations, the Squadron Commander, 31 PMF and DPOs across the 25 local government areas to the Central Bank of Nigeria office in Asaba, Delta State, for the inspection of local government election materials. Earlier, Governor of the state, Sheriff Oborewori, cast his votes and spoke on the latest Supreme Court's judgment granting autonomy to local government.
I'm assuring Deltans that this election is free and fair. I've been up since, monitoring the process, and now I'm here to cast my vote. I've casted my vote, and we're sure I will be victory of PDP by the grace of God. Then on the issue of the judgment, Supreme Court have given judgment. But you can see that we believe in that same process. That's why when I came in, I did not constitute a transition committee, not here in Delta State. I'm not in support of transition committee, and the HPM are the one handling the place, and they were given 3 months and they enable us to do election. And today, by the grace of God, we are doing our election today. By early next week, those won will be sworn in by the grace of God.
The news will continue after the short timeout. To stay with us. Mr. Austin Azu, good afternoon to you. Can you hear me? Austin?
Yeah, good afternoon. I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. I can hear you too.
I can hear you.
All right, good.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Is this Dakbo or
It's Lekan.
Onabanjo?
Onabanjo.
Which of the yes? Onabanjo?
Onabanjo, yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Many thanks for being there. Earlier on, we told you that the election of council chairman and councillors is actually holding today in 5,863 polling units in Delta State. And we have our correspondent, Austin Azu, who's actually standing by to give us updates on this. Austin, it's nice to have you around. Good afternoon to you. So just kindly give us an update of how the election has gone so far.
Yeah, it's expected by now. Election seems might have been over, but due to the heavy downpour of the rain, maybe some of the areas where election did not start earlier might still be ongoing. However, at this polling unit, DSEC Ward 4005 and Unit 2 and Unit 3 and 4, they have finished their elections here. And as a matter of fact, you can see from behind, you can see some vehicular movement. They have started moving already. So the restriction of vehicular movement has elapsed, because don't forget that the restriction of movement was placed between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. However, from reports we gather from the field, late arrival of materials were cycle signs, and there are some places that they didn't even get voters' materials, election materials. So these are based due to the fact that there are some areas that did not vote. So at the moment, what we can verify and tell you that election was held in the state here, and some local, polling units and some wards, some of them didn't get voting materials from the reports we gathered so far.
So does that mean that, of course, that would be the problem or challenge on the part of the electoral umpire to conduct this election? Did they give any reason, or was there any, of course, information handed down as to why elections were held late in some places and why some other polling units didn't have electoral materials or election materials delivered to them?
I believe the DSEC officials or the commissioner should be able to address that issue. At the moment, all results from the collation centers will be transmitted to the local government area, where they will further be transmitted to the headquarters, where the results will be collated and announced local governments by each local government. So the process of collation will be able to get that answer why some polling units and some some wards did not hold the elections.
Okay, so well, how would you describe the turnout? Did people come out, and what was the security provision like in the polling units that you covered?
Yes, apart from the governor's polling units, every other unit we visited in Abia local government, in Okpe local government, in Ugele North, Ugele South, part of Safele, Warri North, most of the local government we visited witnessed a low turnout of voters. So obviously, a low turnout of voters definitely will mar the process. Don't forget that they are expecting over 3 million voters expected in these elections. So, and earlier on in the morning, we saw people going about their normal businesses, despite the fact that vehicular movements were limited. So some persons didn't actually take these local government elections very serious. So obviously, we don't expect nothing, quite different from what we saw on the feed about low turnout of voters.
Okay, Austin Azo, thank you so much for giving us the details. Definitely, we'll try as much as possible to keep tabs with you and to get more details. Peradventure, of course, the collation will be conducted probably today, and we get the final results from you. Thank you for the updates. And now, of course, we will be talking to one of our correspondents, that is Chizoba Anionwe, even as we told you earlier on the news as regards what has been happening in our axis where she is covering. Chizoba, it's nice to have you around. I'd like you to just help us understand what are the updates like.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Well, the update is that the excavators have finished their work yesterday, and they have made sure that they have reached the ground level, that is level 0, according to them, to ensure that nobody is still left under the rubble. And of course, the students that have been evacuated are doing well in the various hospitals they've been taken to. We saw a number of them. We were able to speak to some of them who were in a condition to talk. Actually, some of them are still not yet in a good situation or condition to speak to the press, and that's the truth. And unfortunately, those of them that were confirmed dead, about 22 of them now have been confirmed dead. It's a very sad situation for their parents, as we heard. We have tried to trace their homes, but actually had gone to the morgues to take the bodies for burial, while those of others ones that haven't gone there are still planning for that. So we've not been able to reach those families. But however, we are keeping tabs on that. Then the governor was around early this morning at the scene of the incident to ascertain the level of destruction. And of course, he was sad about that, saying that from what he heard, because he wasn't able to see the other standing structure. That's another two-story building belonging to the school that was also pulled down yesterday for the fear of the same incident happening even sooner than later, actually. So he had declared a 3-day mourning for the students that lost their lives in that sad incident, and of course declared the school closed. Of course, there's no school again because all the structures there have been pulled down, and gave a strong warning to other school owners to ensure that their schools are up to standard, as in standardly built. And if not, they should take their time to bring them down to forestall any other incident as the one that happened yesterday.
Of course, you have given us these details, but I'd like to find out, as investigation started, for us to actually have an understanding of why the structure gave way in the first place, because we see the governor actually ordering the arrest of artisanal miners in residential areas, maybe because of those earth-moving activities. It could have triggered that particular collapse. I'd like you to just piece it together and help us understand why that structure caved in.
All right, some building experts were around this morning, even yesterday, and we spoke with them. And what they said independently was that from what they saw, it showed that there was lack of coordination and professionalism displayed while those buildings were being put up. So substandard buildings as such usually would cave in, would come down without staying for a long time. So for them, there was no standard in building those structures, and that is why they caved in. And the day before it happened, that was Thursday, there was a heavy downpour in Jos, and they said the downpour also gave way in helping the structure to cave in. And that was what actually happened. However, they were seen picking samples of some of the debris to go do analysis. And they said, according to what they have done so far, in a month's time, the results will be out to actually say what went wrong along the line.
Okay, thank you so much, Chizoba Anionwe. We'll definitely also continue to engage you to get more details from you. Pray that the souls of the departed will find eternal rest, and of course the families will also receive reprieve. And of course, at this time, we get to link up with Joshua Imarai, another news correspondent of ours, who has been monitoring the collapsed building in Kubwa right there at the Federal Capital Territory. And Joshua will be helping us understand what the situation is right there. It's not palatable. It's not nice to hear. But then we need to get these details from our men on ground. Joshua, good afternoon to you. What can you tell us about the building collapse? Joshua, if you can hear me, I'm actually asking what updates do you have about the building collapse? We can see a heavy-duty machine behind you trying to probably park or pull the debris away from that site. So we need more details from you because we know you actually have been monitoring the situation.
Well, I'm here currently at Kubwa, resident area of Buhari Area Council in Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where a two-story building collapsed as at the early hours of today. However, 4 persons has been rescued from the rumble, and the excavation of the building is ongoing. And the Development Authority of the Federal Capital Territory has sealed the building and asked every resident to leave here. And currently, you can see many of the Nigerian police force are here safeguarding the property in cases of property that were left behind by a resident of the building being safeguarded. However, there is something that is worthy of note. The lady who raised an alarm of this building collapsing earlier actually ran out of the building and called on her fellow residents in the building. And unknowingly to her, some of her personal belongings were inside the building. As they were gathering and as they were outside looking at the building, then she recalled that some of her personal belongings were inside. She ran inside, and after running inside, the building caved in. And what happened after, she became the last person to be rescued from the rubble. She's currently at the hospital receiving treatment. Others are okay. We'll be gathering more as to those who have been taken to the hospital, and we'll be updating you on that. However, the Standard Organization of Nigeria and other members of the authority in Abuja have affirmed that the building will undergo a structural test to see if the building should stand or not. But however, preliminary findings from officials stated that this building was built with substandard material. They took a quick look at the sand, took a quick look at the cement and the blocks. They noted that everything used to build this building is actually substandard. And there are rumors that this building was built on a short time, that it didn't take 2 months before this building was erected. This building was first a hospital before being converted into a hotel, and now is a residential apartment.
Okay, Joshua, that was quite detailed. Of course, you have given us these updates. We'll continue to see as much details that we can get from you, even as we continue to monitor the situation. These are events or occurrences that one would wish would never happen. And we're just glad that no one actually lost their lives. Let's move on from there, even as we head to Abia State, where the state's head of services recent directive to roll back all command operations and promotions over the past 8 years sparked reactions from both current and former civil servants. Many advocate upholding civil service norms of gradual career advancement based on merit, while others argue that government may have overlooked the complexities of the issue. News Central's Chinwe Ogele spoke exclusively with the retired Abia State Permanent Secretary, Chimdi Oloha, who provided insights into the policy's potential implications.
What the governor or the government of Abia has done this time, for me, it's a good omen for the civil service, because it will help them, to help the service to fall back to shape. And you won't have a situation where you have many directors in one department, for instance.
Following the recent announcement by the Abia State government to reverse command promotions initiated by the previous administration, both current and retired civil servants have expressed their approval. While reluctant to appear on camera, workers emphasized the necessity of this corrective action to safeguard the integrity of the service. In a circular issued by the head of service, Queen Obioma, all command promotions made in the last 8 years will be reversed. The directive aims to restore the hierarchy and dignity of the state's civil service, which has reportedly declined over the years. While the government says the directive aims to facilitate merit-based career advancement within the civil service, critics argue it may be perceived as retaliatory. According to some, the previous administration granted promotions based solely on favoritism rather than merit. However, Chimdi Oloha, a retired permanent secretary in the state, argues that command promotions are within the prerogative of any leader to offer, provided they are justified by legitimate reasons.
You know that it is a good idea, it encourages, but it is not usually done as everybody, let's go. No. It is on individual basis, performance oriented.
The 2023 command promotion by former Governor Okezi Bazo, which had not yet been recognized by the Alex Otti government before being nullified, saw some civil servants promoted to permanent secretaries, benefiting from the same promotion that has now been invalidated.
Some of the beneficiaries from what I heard may have gotten appointments, higher appointments with that. So what it will mean is that they will all fall back. We are going to watch to see how this is implemented, because it is in the implementation that will justify the essence of this circular.
This new order is likely in line with the recommendations from the Civil Service Reform Committee, which recently submitted its report to Governor Alex Otti. In Omaha News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Despite the 6-year-old discrimination law against persons with disabilities in the country, some members of Nigeria's disability community say not much has been achieved in ending widespread discrimination. In an experience sharing chats with News Central Television in Abuja, some of them expressed displeasure at the lack of compliance to the nation's discrimination against disability law. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Hello, my name is Helen Beoko Alashe. I'm the national president.
This is a mother of 4 with hearing impairment, passionately narrating her plight, ranging from difficulties to access to healthcare to struggling in the wake of emergencies. She is not alone, as others with one impairment or the other also shared their experiences, despite existing law criminalizing the discrimination against persons with disabilities.
Somebody who is a person on a wheelchair was called for a job offer. You know, he lives in a place that is actually very distant from where he's supposed to go to. So because he could not be able to use the public transportation, becomes a big problem. You know, by person who doesn't even have a job, he cannot even afford a boat, you know, and because of the fact that he cannot use a public transportation, because of the public transportation is programmed in a way that is not accessible for him, he missed that opportunity.
I had my leg amputated when I was 5. So I have lived with disability since I was a child. I was an awardee of the Chevening Scholarship, and I did my LLM in International Law and Development at the University of Nottingham. I would say that the experience in terms of education is completely different from the education in Nigeria. For instance, I know that at the point, in fact, I was called to the bar working on crutches because my prosthetics got damaged several times, even in the law school, because the terrain was very bad and I could not just navigate. So I keep falling and it keeps spoiling, and my parents couldn't afford anything better than that. So at the point I had to walk on crutches even on the day of my call to the bar. But when I went to the UK, it was a different experience entirely.
I drove to National Assembly. There was a lot of crowds, nowhere to park my car. I just went to someone. I said, please, where is parking space for disability persons? The guy just told me, say, oh, sorry, that they don't have such here. I said, National Assembly don't have such. He said, yes. I said, okay. It was a bad experience for me because before I found where I could park that day, it was a very difficult thing for me as a physical challenged person.
I'm a mother of 4, so I've faced a lot of challenges accessing health care. It was a big challenge for me because I could not access information on how to take care of myself. I watch the TV and I can't hear what they're saying on the news. So this has been the biggest challenge for me as a person with disability.
Referred to as the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018, the law frowns at all discrimination of citizens on the basis of their disabilities. I quote, a person with disability shall not be discriminated against on the ground of his disability by any person or institution in any manner or circumstance. A person who contravenes commits an offense and is liable on conviction too. Of course, as the trial court pleases, if the person is a corporate body, a fine of 1 million naira. and an individual a fine of 100,000 naira or 6 months imprisonment or both. End of quote. This multi-stakeholders forum, comprising of federal lawmakers and the civil society community, have reviewed government's commitment to enforcing existing legislations and policies meant to protect the disability community.
Our committee in the National Assembly also has the mandate to investigate compliance and implementation of the law. We have started the process of doing this, and in this connection, you will hear more on this in the near future.
Every individual, regardless of their physical or mental abilities, deserve the opportunity to participate fully in political, social, and economic life of our country.
We pass laws, but enforcement is the duty of the executive. So, Mr. Chairman, you're very experienced and your accessibility is not compared to mine. I wish Leader was here. Those fines should not be 500,000. Human beings act on sanctions and incentives. If a bank is discriminating against somebody, hit them where it hurts the most, charge them 50 million. I assure you, you'll be surprised by the rapidness that they will construct ramps, and we have the power to do that.
Stakeholders gave recommendations as part of effort to move forward.
Government should do, this law was enacted by the National Assembly. They should do the much they can in order to implement this law, for us to have an accessible transportation, because without transportation being accessible, persons with disabilities will find it very difficult to navigate.
When I went to the UK, it was a different experience entirely. In fact, even before I went, the school had accessed me as a person with disability. When I declared my disability, they have accessed my needs and knew what exactly I needed when I went there. In fact, I was able to fix my prosthetics, it's free of charge, and all of that. The school made provisions for disability support. They call it disability support, and advanced disability support that took care of my needs. For instance, when writing a 24 hours exams, a person with disability is given extra hours, while others will start their exams at 9 a.m. and submit 9 a.m. the next day. For me, as a person with disability, I have till 2 p.m. to submit my exams. And why is this necessary? They took cognizance of the fact that any other person can move freely within that period, cook their food, go to the time they will spend in going to the restroom may be different from the time I'm spending in going to the restroom. I was able to graduate with a distinction. I got an award. Yes, I tried, but also I had the support and I had the environment, the conducive environment. In fact, even my room in the accommodation was a special room, an accessible room. No student had that kind of room.
The 2011 World Report on Disability states that about 25 million Nigerians had at least one disability or the other. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Emmanuel, thank you so much for that very detailed report. Moving on now, a coalition of about 30 Muslim organizations in Nigeria have called on the Sokoto State government to discontinue alleged plans to dethrone the Sultan of Sokoto. The coalition spoke to newsmen in the nation's capital, Abuja, saying that a bill to amend the Sultanate Council law in Sokoto State has been hurriedly passed by the State House of Assembly and will create a crisis if assented to by the governor. Marvelous Obomano tells us more.
The Council of Sokoto is regarded as one of Nigeria's most prestigious religious and traditional institutions in Nigeria. The council, formed by the Sultan, Muhammad Bello Usman Danfodio, during the 19th century, is well older than the nation itself. While there have been speculations that an impasse currently exists between the Sultanate Council and the Sokoto State government, this coalition of over 30 Muslim organizations are alleging that plans have been hatched to dethrone the Sultan. They have raised an alarm calling for caution and urging the Sokoto State government to exercise restraint.
Recent events have led to an attempt to undermine the influence and authority of our revered Sultan of Sokoto and President General of Nigeria Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar III, with some even suggesting a plot by the government of Sokoto State to depose him.
They say the dethronement will create a crisis among Muslim faithful in Nigeria and also create a vacuum, especially in sister countries where the Sultan has influence.
Dethroning this great personality will not be in the best interest of Sokoto State, its government, and the great people of Sokoto State. Above all, it will bring about a great disservice, disrepute, and dishonor to the Muslim Ummah of this country. We will not stand idly by while our beloved Sultan and the throne he occupies, which is more than 200 years old, are unfairly targeted.
So most of them have been contributing seriously to the stability, peaceful coexistence of the Nigerian populace as a whole. So it's not that maybe they are participating in partisan politics, but they have been playing the role as father to all in the society. Unfortunately, when a government comes in and it goes, when another new one comes in, they normally tag them as if maybe they supported the outgone administration, which is not the same.
They are calling on the federal government to intervene in the crisis and protect the nation's traditional institutions.
It is high time that the federal government, through the National Assembly, look at the way how to accommodate the traditional institution in the Nigerian constitution, because they have participated and they have contributed greatly to most of these constitutional conferences that have been held in the past.
What we as Muslim Ummah expect from the Sokoto State government and Governor Ahmad Aliyu is to further strengthen and reinforce the power and influence of His Eminence Sultan Muhammad Saad Abubakar CFR and the Sultanate.
The Kano state government had earlier repealed the Kano Emirates Council law, which has created a crisis in the state. This coalition of several Muslim organizations are calling on the Sokoto state government to avoid a repeat. This coalition of several Muslim organizations are calling on the Sokoto state government to prevent a similar impending crisis in Sokoto state. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Oboman.
Coming up on the news, Rwanda's President Paul Kagame holds final rally in Kigali. We'll bring you details of this and more after the short timeout. Stay with us. News Central now continues in East Africa, where Rwanda's President Paul Kagame has held his final rally ahead of the legislative and presidential elections next week. Longtime leader Kagame and his Rwandan Patriotic Front is widely expected to win and extend his iron grip on the Great Lakes nation. However, opposition candidate Frank Habineza hopes to cause an upset. When he ran in the last election in 2017, Habineza scrapped just 0.48% of the vote against Kagame's whooping 98.79%. Kagame has been Rwanda's strongman since the end of the 1994 genocide, when his RPF militia overthrew the extremist Hutu regime, which instigated the vicious killing spree that left around 800,000 people dead, mainly from the Tutsi minority. We now head to the Horn of Africa nation, where Kenyan security forces have killed 4 alshabab terrorists and seized a substantial weapons cache near the Somalia border in a significant counter-terrorism operation. The intelligence-led mission carried out by a multi-agency security team in Banisa sub-county, Mandera, marks another crucial victory in Kenya's ongoing war against terrorism and underscores the country's increasingly sophisticated approach to national security. The operation resulted in the recovery of a deadly arsenal, including a rocket-propelled grenade launcher, 4 RPG warheads, a PKM machine gun, 3 AK-47 rifles, 7 AK-47 magazines, 5 pistols, each with a magazine, and 5 mobile phones. 8 additional militants reportedly escaped with injuries, and security forces are actively pursuing them, leveraging advanced tracking techniques and cross-border cooperation. We stay in Kenya to tell you that the police watchdog in the country is investigating whether there was any police involvement in the gruesome discovery of mutilated bodies dumped in a Nairobi dump site. The Independent Police Oversight Authority is also looking into claims of abductions and unlawful arrests of demonstrators who went missing after widespread anti-government protests. Police initially said the severely mutilated bodies of 6 women tied up in plastic bags were found on Friday, dumped in a garbage site in an abandoned quarry in Mukuru, in the south of the capital. The IPOA said in a statement later that the remains of at least 9 people had been recovered, 7 of them female, and called for swift investigations to identify them. Up north, Algerians have been reacting to President Abdelmadjid Tebboun's intention to seek a second term in an election set for September. Tebboune, who is 78 years old, was elected in 2019 with 58% of the vote following months of pro-democracy protests. Tebboune, accused of leading a crackdown on dissent since mass protests in 2019, recently announced that he would seek a second term. In March, he announced that the presidential election would be held on September 7, 3 months ahead of schedule.
يعني خدم البلاد وان شاء الله الدوزيام موندا يطلع ان شاء الله. واش نقول لك يعني راه واقف. انا نتمناه يعني يفتح شويه الشركات اللي جون يعني يخدموا. لازم يدير هذا الشيء هذا يعني. اللي جانا مضايعين.
ان شاء الله يا اخويا انا ماذا بينا يا تبون يسقم البلاد ان شاء الله. ان شاء الله يفوت لنا كاع الشغل تاعنا هذا مكان. هذا واش نحبوا منه. هذا هو الميساج اللي نلعبوه.
هو يعني في 3 سنوات ولا 4 سنوات ما تقدرش تدير واش كاين، ولكن الحمد لله كما نقولوا ما رحناش المديونيه والاستقرار في البلاد والامن، وهذا واش الانسان واش يطلب. بقات لنا الا بعض الشروط. احنا المشكل في الجزائر عندنا قضيه تاع الشباب، يعني تشغيل الشباب كما نقولوا هنا. ماذا بينا الدوله دير مؤسسات يعني.
From other continents, we tell you that thousands of supporters of Bolivian President Luis Arce marched in La Paz on Friday to condemn a recent attempted military coup and showed support for the president. The protesters, including workers, indigenous people and peasants, Arce addressed the crowd, saying the coup attempt was driven by economic interests and a desire to control Bolivia's natural resources. The attempted coup on June 26 was thwarted, and 22 people, including military personnel and civilians, have been arrested.
19. El pueblo sale a las calles a defender la democracia, hermanos. Eso es lo que los golpistas tienen que escuchar desde aquí, desde Plaza Murillo. Que el pueblo boliviano no va a dejar pasar a los golpistas, hermanas, hermanos. Siempre detrás de un golpe de Estado hay intereses económicos y siempre en nuestro país hemos tenido que enfrentar golpes de Estado por querernos arrebatar nuestros recursos naturales, por querer estratégicamente y por geopolítica arrebatarnos lo que nos significa para nosotros el motor del desarrollo y el crecimiento.
Evo Morales ejerce de comandante de la troika opositora, asistido por...
Talking business now, the Central Bank of Nigeria on Friday intervened in the foreign exchange market by selling the sum of $122.67 million to 46 authorized dealers in its determination to promote stability and reduce market volatility. According to a statement signed by Omolara Duke, CBN's director in charge of financial markets disclosed that of the total sale, $67.5 million was sold to 27 authorized dealers, while the sum of $2.5 million was bought from one authorized dealer on July 10, 2024. The range of the bid for the July 10, 2024 sales was 1,480 naira to a US dollar and to about 1,500 naira to a US dollar, while the value date for the payments, going by the settlement cycle of 2 days, T+2, is July 12, 2024. Similarly, on July 11, 2024, the sum of $55.17 was sold to 19 authorized dealers at 1,540 naira to a US dollar, and no FX was purchased. The value date for the payments of the spot sale is July 15, 2024. We also tell you that the government of Ghana will borrow 17.4 billion Ghanaian cedis in July 2024, an 18.8% increase over that of June 2024. This will require an average weekly bid of 3.5 billion Ghanaian cedis to refinance maturing bills. In the past 2 months, post-cash reserve requirement, there had been an average weekly bid size of 4.1 billion Ghanaian cedis. This suggests scope for the Treasury to raise new money worth that's about 3.2 billion Ghanaian cedis in July 2024. Last week, investors continued to favor the shorter end of the yield curve, with the 91-day bill raking in 2.5 billion Ghanaian cedis as against 2.3 billion Ghanaian cedis in the previous week, closing at a marginal decrease of 24.79%. The 182-day bill followed suit at 26.75%, representing a 5 basis points drop in yield, while the 364-day bill remained unchanged at 27.79%. The Treasury accepted all bids covering estimated maturities valued at 2.76 billion Ghanaian cedis. In sports, the Confederation of African Football has approved only the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium in Uyo for the 2024-2025 CAF Interclub competitions. This was confirmed in an official communique sent out by CAF. CAF noted that the list, which included 54 countries, is for the first and second preliminary round of the 2024-2025 season. Nigeria League champions Enugu Rangers, Ikenne-based club Remo Stars, and FA Cup champion El Kanemi Warriors are the teams who will take part in the preliminary stage. They now have to race against time to put their home ground in shape or play in Uyo, Akwa Ibom. The African body, however, noted that the final list of approved stadia for the indicated match days may be updated, subject to the CAF stadium inspection procedure in place. We also tell you that Turkish Super League club Atayaspor has signed Nigerian forward Jonathan Uroko from the Russian Premier League club Krasnodar on a 3-year deal. Uroko started his professional career with the Bulgarian side Botev Plovdiv. After he moved from Diamond Academy in Calabar, he went on to join Krasnodar on loan late in the year before securing a permanent move in 2023. Uroko has scored 17 goals and 30 appearances for Russian side Arsenal Tula, where he played on loan in the 2023-2024 season. That's all at this hour, but before we go, we take a look at some of our major stories. We told you that 74 victims were discharged as Plateau State Governor Mutfwang orders closure of collapsed school. Local government election holds in 5,863 polling units in Delta State. Finally, we told you that Rwandan President Kagame holds final rally in Kigali ahead of elections. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on the screen. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV, and you can equally watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, StarTimes channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.